My name is Paul Williams. I worked for the FBI for 5 years. A lot of the work I've done for the FBI resulted in arrest and convictions. I spent my life as an investigative reporter living in Pennsylvania. That's my father. He was a politician, yes. I'm doing this program because I think in my life as a journalist, I've spent my whole life writing. Once again, I've won many awards for journalism. There is no story internationally, there's nothing more important right now than what's taking place with the Gülen movement and what's taking place with the CIA and Turkey. People have to know that some terrible thing is being developed that will end up in the destruction of all nationalism, the destruction of everything that Ataturk stood for and fought for. It'll all be obliterated by, and it also within the United States, that our way of life is being compromised by Gülen and by this movement. And the repercussions of this are enormous. I was working with the FBI, and I was working with a lot of people from Israeli intelligence. And they said, look it, Paul, you're missing the boat. Where you live, you're only 45 minutes away from the most dangerous Muslim in the world. I said, what are you talking about? They said, there's a guy by the name of Fetullah Gülen who lives up in the Poconos. And he's right next to your house. You should look into him. Well, I started to look into Gülen, and several things immediately amazed me. I was looking at documents from the Institute of Strategic Research at the University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League, one of our leading, most prestigious universities. And they uncovered the fact that Gülen, who doesn't speak a word of English, and has set up over 140 schools throughout the United States. And he's been called a leading educator. He's been championed by Bill and Hillary Clinton. I started to dig further. And then I looked at his hearing. He came here in 1997, 1998 from Turkey as a fugitive. He landed in Sailorsburg. And when he applied for permanent residency here in the United States, the FBI said, this guy's dangerous. We can't have him in the country. We have to send him back. Homeland Security came to the same decision. This guy is trying to create a new Islamic world order. This guy is responsible for the toppling of governments. This guy is very dangerous. We cannot have him here in the United States. Well, at the same hearing, you had people like Martin Abramovich, who was a former ambassador to Turkey. You had people like Graham Fuller, who's a very prominent person in the CIA, saying, oh, Gülen is a wonderful educator. Gülen, it would be an asset to the United States. We must keep him here. So he obtained his permanent residency here. Now, after that, I started thinking that how could a guy like this, third grade education, why is he sheltered by the CIA? Why? And why does he have so much bloody money? And I figured I want to really meet this guy. So I went up on several occasions to Sailorsburg. I had a photographer with me. And I started talking to the neighbors. And the neighbors up there started to tell me things that were really alarming. They said, look at this guy Gülen, we're hearing from his compound up there. He has like a mountain fortress. We're hearing from this compound gunfire at night. And some of the gunfire is from semi-automatic weaponry. And around our houses during the day, there's a helicopter that keeps combing the area, looking for anyone who's trying to intrude on his property. When I was looking into the CIA connection to Fetullah Gülen, I discovered that there were CIA agents in his schools throughout Central Asia. In his schools, like in Turkmenistan and all these other places, if in all these schools the CIA is operating, then only an idiot would not realize that the CIA is very much involved in the Gülen movement. This I do know. It came to them. The Gülen movement was in existence. They realized that in these newly created Russian republics, there were vast oil and natural gas reserves. One of the richest areas in the world right now is Eurasia. And the fight for Eurasia is going to control politics for the oncoming centuries. Everything is there. The United States could not, in its mindset, allow these natural resources to be controlled by Russia or by China. We had to control that, because whoever controls that controls the economy. Whoever controls the energy controls everything. Well, how are you going to get control of these newly created Russian republics, Turkmenistan? How are you going to get control if you're an American? First of all, these places were part of the former Soviet Union. In all these countries, there's a very strong anti-American animus that they can't overcome. They're very suspicious of Americans. They're very suspicious of American enterprises. They've been trained that way for years and years and years. Well, how are you going to break into that? How are you going to get these natural resources? Well, the only way you can do that is to use Turkey as your proxy, the country of Turkey as your proxy, because all these countries share Turkish culture, okay, Turkish background, Turkish history. They all have that in common. So what better way to gain access to these resources than for the Gülen movement? How can you do that? You establish the schools everywhere, throughout all Central Asia. And you have CIA agents involved in all these so-called educational enterprises, and you got your foothold throughout Central Asia. That's what happened. Paul Hellawell, he was stationed to work with the national Chinese who were fighting, the Chinese, of course, were on our side fighting the Japanese at that time. But what we did was we were working with the national Chinese, because we realized in 1945 that the nationals were going to be fighting Mao Zedong and the communists. So Hellawell realized that Chiang Kai-shek raised the money for his army by selling drugs to, throughout portions of China and throughout portions of Southeast Asia. Well, Hellawell, this is all documented, said, I got a great idea. We have this new agency that's being created, the CIA. They have no source of funding. Why don't we sell heroin in the United States? But the good thing about it is we don't need to sell heroin so that it would really disrupt the United States. We are going to just sell it to the blacks and the black communities, because this is the truth. This is absolutely documented. You can get it, you can get the records. We will sell it in jazz clubs. And if so many people in the black community become addicted, it's not going to affect, the people in suburbia, the people in mainline America, and we'll make a lot of money from it. We'll make enough money to pay for Operation Gladio. That's how it all started. The source of the CIA funding for all of these enterprises is heroin. Always has been. Goes back to 1947 when the CIA made an agreement with Lucky Luciano to take over the heroin trade so that they could control the politics in Italy at that time, the 1948 election. They set up the narcotics trade, and the narcotics were coming at that time came from Turkey. When the Turks outlawed the cultivation of opium, this is during the 1970s, the CIA cultivated the crop in Southeast Asia. But what do you think right now with our invasion of Afghanistan? The one thing you're not allowed to do is to interfere with the poppy fields. Our troops can't go through the poppy fields. They can't step on one poppy. That's protected. And I mean, it's been verified time and time and time again in U.S. hearings that the source of all black operations by the CIA is heroin. Always has been. That's what financed Gladio. Gladio was completely fueled by narcotics. Without narcotics, listen, the CIA, when the CIA was created, 1947, 1948, it received no allocation of funds from Congress. Do you know that? None. had to get money somehow. Since it wanted to be involved in Italian politics and Turkish politics throughout the world, it had to engage in black operations, and that brought them right into heroin with the mafia. Well, first of all, this came out with congressional hearings going back to the Pike Committee. It came out in Congress that the CIA had established, for instance, banks throughout the world, like the Nugan Hand Bank in Southeast Asia, a whole chain of banks in Panama. This came out in congressional hearings that these banks that were controlled by the CIA, staffed by the CIA, were the source of their funding totally was narcotics. You're dealing with the flow of slush funds through a series of black banks. We know that the CIA established black banks throughout the world. One bank that they used copiously was the Vatican Bank. You have a deposit being made in Southeast Asia. You have that money flowing into a bank within Italy that might be controlled by Sindana or a member of the Italian mafia, going from there into the Vatican Bank, going from there into Switzerland, going from Switzerland into a Panama bank, and going from there to a Miami bank and back again. So I have traced this, and many other people have as well, that you are dealing with right now throughout the world billions and billions and billions of dollars in a CIA slush fund that has been going to people like Gülen to fund the CIA black ops. And there is a direct relation between the Bubbas in Turkey, who control the narcotics, and the CIA, and Gladio, and Gülen. I think that a lot of it is explained by the fact that Gülen and the CIA have created a country that doesn't exist. It's called Turkestan. Doesn't exist. It only exists on the maps of the CIA and in the imagination of Fetullah Gülen. It's part of China. It's where the Uyghurs live right now. They're Islamic. And that's the area that's, of course, very rich in natural resources. And we have created that with the Gülen movement. It doesn't really exist. But that leads me to believe that the CIA is using Gülen's concept of a new Islamic world order, the revitalization of the Ottoman Empire, to bring together all these newly created Russian republics under Turkey and eventually under the governance of the CIA and its global ambitions. There's nothing about Gülen himself, what everybody says about him, what the Clintons say about him, what Obama says about him, what Bush says about him, everything is a lie. There's nothing about him that's real. He's only a figurehead. His movement has been taken over by the CIA.